Just a quick little question. At what income level are we allowed to complain about being broke? Because apparently, 6 figures is not enough anymore. You see, everyone on the internet is constantly fighting about the economy. One side is like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the other side is like, we're all gonna die! So, I decided to actually look at what people are dealing with. We have teachers who can't afford rent. We have parents who are paying more for daycare than mortgages, and someone pays for health insurance every month and still can't afford to fix their dang teeth. But sure, it's probably the avocado toast. So, let's talk about why half of America is one mishaps away from being financially screwed while we're supposedly the richest country.
How are people affording life right now? How are people tackling this cost of living on the average American salary? I just watched a TikTok of a teacher who makes a teacher's salary. I don't know what state she's in, so I don't know how much she makes, but her 1-bedroom apartment is $2,000. And when she spends $2,000 on that 1-bedroom apartment, it doesn't even come with a washer and dryer. So she has to go pay an additional $2 every time she wants to use their washer and dryer. Okay, like, how does that leave her any extra money to spend? And then she said she had a $400 car payment, which some people were bashing her on that. But in today's economy with interest rates, that's really not that bad. And I'm sure she needs a dependable car. So you talk about teacher's salary, $2,000 in rent, $400 car payment, you got insurance, you got groceries, electricity. Like, I don't understand how people are affording life right now, and it really makes me sad for some people. You have people who are like her. She's single, she has her own salary, or families where it just works out best for them for the mother to stay home. And if the father is just making an average American salary, how are they affording life without going in a bunch of debt? This lady who's a teacher started crying because she said she realizes on her salary and where she lives, she will actually end up in more debt. Then, like, she will just continue to accrue more debt and more debt and more debt because her salary is not matching the cost of living. And what's sad is I've seen people be like, just spend less. Listen, guys, the cost of living is rising and our salaries are stagnant, okay? So there's not just spend less. That's not the problem here. The problem is the cost of living is outrageous, and minimum wage in some states is still $7.25. Teachers in some states are still paid a ridiculously low salary, even though their job is super important. I don't know what we can do about this, but I'm just going on a rant because it really, really pisses me off.
Yeah, and I know what some of you are thinking. Well, she should just spend less. She should just move somewhere cheaper. She's a teacher. She teaches your kids, and she can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment. But sure, it's her fault. 67% of American workers are living paycheck to paycheck right now. That's up from 63% last year. 2/3 of the country. And here's the part that broke my brain a little. 40% of people making over $100,000 a year are also living paycheck to paycheck. 6 figures. These people are making 6 figures and they're still running out of money before their next check. I'm sure they're all just bad with money though. Turns out, there's actually a name for this. Economists call this a K-shaped economy. Basically, after COVID, the economy quote-unquote recovered, but only for some people. Top of the K, people who own stocks, own property, work from home, they went up. Bottom of the K, everybody else. Renters, service workers, people who got laid off, they went down and they just stayed down. So when somebody comes up to you and says, the economy's doing great, yay, they're technically not wrong. Stock market's up, employment looks fine, GDP's whatever, but that's the top of the K talking. If you're on the bottom, the economy isn't good for you. It's good for the people it was already good for. The gap between high income and low income wage growth is the widest it's been since 2016. So you're not crazy. You're not bad with your money, you're just on the wrong side of the letter.
I decided to make my own list of the things that me and my family have had to give up because of the cost of living increasing. So here's my list. The number one thing on it is all of our subscriptions, really. We didn't really have that much in the first place, but we had Hulu, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime. So we canceled all those subscriptions, and instead with our Roku TV, we got those like free TV apps like Freevee and Plex. So now we don't have to pay for TV anymore. Next thing we gave up was actually my once-a-month Target trips. Now, anybody who is a stay-at-home parent knows that you literally get no time to yourself, not even when you're trying to take shit. I used to go to Target once a month and I would set aside like 25 bucks for myself just to get a coffee, get myself some face masks, maybe a t-shirt. Now we can't afford that anymore, so no more Target trips. The next thing that we cut out was actually eating out at a sit-down restaurant. I'm the type of person who always tips, especially I try to do like 20% at least. But honestly, we just cannot afford to eat out anymore. The only time we go to eat out is if we go to like McDonald's or Wendy's and then I use the app to get like free stuff with the points. That's the only time we'll ever go out to eat, and it's maybe a couple times a month, maybe. The next thing we actually had to give up was I had to stop working. I actually went back to work in July and I worked for almost 6 weeks. I was only working part-time because my husband's in the military and we share a car, and then we also can't afford childcare. I was only working weekends, and most of the time I'd work 24 hours. Sometimes I get lucky and be able to work 28. But because I went back to work, we ended up losing our WIC benefits and the food bank that we used to go to because it was income-based. We would only go to that food bank a couple times a month, but that still helped us out a lot because they would usually give us a large amount of food that would probably add up to like $150 in groceries. Getting that twice a month really helped us. But when I went back to work, we lost that and our WIC benefits, and our WIC benefits also really helped us. And then I wasn't able to work more hours to make up for what we had lost. Honestly, with how much money I was bringing in, it wasn't really covering entirely what we lost anyway. So at that point, there was no point in me working. I ended up having to quit my job, and luckily we were able to get our WIC benefits back like the week after, but the food bank, you have to wait like a whole month and then reapply.
Okay, so the part where she had to quit her job, that's not even just her. There's actually a name for this. It's called the benefits cliff. So basically, you make a little bit more money, you cross some invisible threshold, and suddenly you lose your benefits. Food assistance, childcare subsidies, healthcare, and the amount you lose is way more than the extra money you earned. So you end up worse off for working more. So the programs were set with hard cutoffs, and nobody built in gradual transition. You just hit the cliff and fall right off. So when people say, just get a better job or work more hours, sometimes that literally makes you poorer. She did the math on her own. Working cost her family money. That's not a personal failure.
Okay, just got back from the grocery store. I had to buy a couple of things. This is what I got. Some cereal, some milk, laundry detergent, deodorant, and toothbrushes. 5 items. Local Target. I live in a suburb of a medium-sized city. It's not like I, bought this stuff in Times Square. 5 items. Guess how much it was? Just guess. Well, here's the receipt. That's today, December 1st, 2023. $51.05. Now, minimum wage in the state that I live in is $13.65. Gross daily wage is about $109, 69%-ish take home. That's $75. I would have to work almost a full day just to buy these 5 items. If you're making $120,000 a year, you might not be feeling this. Good for you. If you're making $40,000 a year, if you're making $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, like people on Social Security, this is beyond struggling. This is beyond tough times and suck it up. This is a matter of, for a lot of people, survival. When you factor in rent, gas, car payment, whatever else, it's coming down to having to make really scary decisions. This is where we're at.
So I want to take a look at what those groceries would cost now. Here's what's crazy about that. So grocery prices were basically flat for 5 years before the pandemic. Like they literally did not move. Then 2020 hits, 4% increase, then 6% increase, then 12% in just 1 year. Food prices are up 32% since 2019. So if your grocery bill was $100 a week in 2019, that same cart now costs $132 every week. That's an extra $1,600 a year just to eat the same food you were eating before. And here's the thing that people seem to not be able to get. When you hear inflation is cooling, that doesn't mean prices went down. It means they stopped going up as fast. Your groceries aren't getting cheaper, they're just getting expensive at a slower pace. So you cancel your Netflix, you stop buying avocado toast or whatever the boomers think you're wasting your money on, you do everything right. Congrats! Your landlord raised rent $300 because he felt like it.
So I just got home from touring an apartment, and this whole drive home, I have been stewing with anger. Because between the time I signed up for that tour a week ago and the time I got there to do the tour today, the price of the unit I was interested in has gone up by $300. $300 in a week. And I no longer qualify for the unit at all because it went up by $300 in a week. And they were talking about, well, the supply and the demand. The supply and the demand. That's why it went up. They skyrocketed over the last week because of the supply and the demand.
Okay, so her rent went up like $300 in a week. And I started thinking to myself, like, why is that? What could possibly have changed in 7 days? So I looked it up. And there's actually a reason. So basically what I found is that there's this company out there called RealPage. They make software that landlords use to set rent prices. And the Department of Justice sued them for price fixing.
Tonight, the Justice Department expanding a lawsuit against RealPage, accusing the software company of coordinating with landlords to pool non-public tenant data and coordinate to keep rents artificially high. Now adding 6 of the largest U.S. landlords and property managers to the suit, representing more than 1.3 million units in 43 states and D.C. Many landlords use RealPage to help set rental prices and manage occupancy.
Optimize property performance even in challenging market conditions.
This summer, the DOJ alleged their software facilitated a price-fixing scheme.
This conduct had really corroded the market and allowed companies to put profits over people.
In the updated complaint, the DOJ says competing landlords conducted phone and email discussions, even cocktail hours, and participated in monthly user groups promoted by RealPage to share information.
So basically, these landlords share their pricing data with this algorithm, and the algorithm ends up telling them what to charge. So instead of competing with each other, which would keep the prices down, they're all just coordinating. The Department of Justice literally complained and said one landlord started raising rent within a week of using the software. Within 11 months, they'd raised them over 25%. The DOJ even called it the new frontier of collusion. So when her rent goes up $300 for no reason, there might actually be a reason.
You know what I'm upset about today? Healthcare. I have spent the last few years putting off getting some dental work done because my priorities financially have been getting my son's health taken care of and court for the DV case against his father. So all the extra money, even though I'm not struggling, has gone towards my son. His tuition, his genetic testing, all that kind of stuff. I pay $400. More like closer to $500, about $250 per paycheck for us to have medical, dental, and vision insurance through my job. And I went to the dentist today for a limited appointment because I have 2 broken teeth on the upper left side of my mouth. And guess how much it's supposed to cost me to fix those 2 teeth with dental insurance? I'm going to show you. I am supposed to pay $1,900. He tried to schedule me for tomorrow, and I had to tell them no. Like, first of all, it doesn't work with my schedule. But 2, like, I'm supposed to be able to make a split-second decision on whether or not I can afford right now to pay $1,900 for 2 teeth, and really it's for 1 tooth because my wisdom tooth is just getting extracted, which is about $43, which means that the other tooth is all of those costs. Am I supposed to keep suffering with broken teeth? No. So then I do what? I spend this $2,000 on this when that $2,000 can go towards my kid or other bills. Like, what am I supposed to do as a single mom who is literally just, and I make good money. Like, I make good money. Anybody else, in any other state other than California, I would be living incredibly. I don't know what to do. It's like I pay for insurance, and that should make it where it's not. It's expensive. It just freaking sucks.
$500 a month, and she still owes $1,900 for 2 teeth. And here's the thing. This isn't even just a her problem. This is an everybody problem. 38% of Americans have delayed or skipped medical care because of the cost. Not couldn't afford elective surgery. They skipped care altogether and didn't even go to the doctor when they needed to. And dental is its own nightmare. Most health insurance doesn't cover dental at all, or the coverage maxes out at like $1,500 a year, which is fine until you realize one root canal can cost $2,000. So you're paying for insurance that doesn't actually cover the thing that you need. And premiums keep going up. The average health insurance premium rose 7% this year. That's 4 years in a row of increases. So you're paying more every year for coverage that covers less. And when something actually happens, you still can't even afford it. She's choosing between fixing her teeth and paying her bills. Make it make sense. And I think there's a reason health insurance companies are some of the most hated companies in America. They posted record profits last year while denying claims from people, while people skipped medications because they couldn't afford them.
I am so fed up with this country, honestly. Right now, I want to rant about daycare.
My kids are at the same facility. It goes from 3 months to VPK. So my son is in preschool and my daughter is 8 months. Now my son just graduated preschool, but they have a summer camp. Now the summer camp applies for all ages. And this place is ridiculous because they close for random days, teacher planning days for an infant. I mean, you're not teaching them. They are whatever. That's a story for another day. So they are closed for an entire week. Now, there's set rates. Pay continues. We are paying continuously. However, now I have to pay a person to come to my house and watch my 2 kids. And the cheapest that I have been able to find is $30 an hour. And for a week, I mean, holy shit.
In a lot of cities, childcare costs more than rent. In some places, it's more than a mortgage. You're paying mortgage money so that you can go work. And what Americans don't even realize, because we don't talk about it, is most developed countries subsidize childcare. Germany, France, Sweden, Canada, they all have some version of subsidized or universal childcare. Because they figured out that if you want people to work and contribute to the economy, maybe you shouldn't punish them for having kids in the first place. We're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and we have some of the worst social systems to help people who are doing everything right. People working, contributing, paying taxes, and the system punishes them for it. You want people to have families? You want people in the workforce? Then make it possible. Because right now, people are doing the math, just like that military lady with the benefits cliff, and they're realizing that working doesn't make any financial sense.
Daycare costs are absolutely insane right now, and it's going to take a lot of 2-income families down to 1-income family, and let me explain that. I know that sounds backwards because you'd think you need more money in to pay daycare costs, but look at these numbers. This is pretty mind-blowing. Let's say you have 2 parents, okay? You have parent 1 and parent 2. Parent 1 is making $90,000 a year. They're bringing home about $75,000 a year in actual net income. Now, parent 2 is going to go get a job for, let's say, $50,000. So now you have $140,000 as a household income, but that $50,000 after taxes, you're only going to bring home about $38,000. So you bring home $38,000 as a secondary income, but what gets mind-blowing is daycare costs, depending on where you live, are $2,000 to $3,000. So let's use $2,500. You're spending $2,500 a month to go make $3,000 a month. You're only netting about $600 more a month to go spend 40 hours a week doing a job that hopefully you love, but most people don't love their job, and it just doesn't make financial sense. So a lot of people will figure out that $600 difference. Can we cut down on cars? Can we budget? Can we do something else to make that up so that I can stay home with the kids? And this is causing a mass exodus of people out of the workforce. Now, there's a lot of other implications, and I'm not ignorant to it. If one person stays home for 5 years with the kids, their earning potential goes down long term. That person will no longer become marketable when they try to go back for a job. My wife and I talked about this at length when she decided to stay home from work, and it's something you have to put thought into. But honestly, don't just pay daycare and go to work and not run the numbers. Run it inside your household, because for the majority of Americans, it actually doesn't make sense anymore.
If you're working full-time and still can't make ends meet, the internet will tell you you're bad with money. And maybe. Some of you are. I don't know your life. But if you're doing everything right, working, budgeting, getting rid of the lattes or whatever, and it's still not enough, then something is broken, and it's not you. Anywho, that's all I've got for you guys today, and if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!